Hello, welcome to the Wasting Time podcast. We're up to, hey Nick, so I counted before. I think we're up to episode 78 today. How's it going, my friend?
Good, yeah. Yeah, 78. 22 away.
22 away from the big 100. Yeah, I wonder at what point we'll reach that milestone. We'll see.
What do we do for the 100th episode? That's something. Maybe it's something we should be planning now, you know?
Yeah, it's true. Do we do like something similar to that Christmas one we did that time when we get previous guests back? Or do we, is that when we
do the live thing?
Do a live thing?
We do a live podcast.
Yeah, us and all three of our listeners can all share the moment together. Who would be your dream guest for episode 100? I probably asked you that before, but
what new guest?
Yeah, it could be an old guest if we've already had your dream guest.
I don't know if you've asked me this before because I feel very put on the spot because it's quite a big question. And I've got a terrible memory, as you know, as well. So maybe you have.
Very true.
Dead or alive?
No, alive. It has to be at least within the realms of possibility in that respect.
Do you know what? It would be great to get the Madden brothers on. That would be a dream guest, and just to see your little face as well. If we got the Madden brothers on as well, I think would be a big bonus. But yeah, I'm guessing I've probably just stolen your dream guest there, have I?
Well, they would be an obvious one. Them or Mark Hoppus or Travis Barker, I suppose, would be the big ones. I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like Travis Barker would just I feel like it would be a difficult interview. I feel like he's a difficult interviewee. I don't know if you get that, opposed to a Hoppus who's because Travis never really did any of the media stuff, did he? He left it to Tom and Mark, and even recently, he doesn't do a lot in the way of interviews.
I disagree a little bit. I mean, I think you're
but they're short and sweet.
That's how it was back in the day. But you've seen him on things like Larry King when he's having a long interview, or he was on Drew Barrymore's talk show not long ago. I feel like he has missed the media these days, and he's just such a big celebrity.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm swaying away from. I'm not really feeling all of Travis Barker's projects these days, to be honest with you. So
yeah, fair enough.
But I don't know. Let me come back to you on that one, and I'll give it some proper thought.
Okay. Okay.
We'll take it from there.
Yeah, and then we'll make sure we book whoever it is.
Of course.
Along with the Maddens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anything you want to discuss before we get to today's interview?
Nothing on my radar at the moment, really. But I know you've pinged over a few things my way. I don't know if you want to go through a couple of those new releases.
So, at the time of recording, one of the biggest sort of hype releases in our world is Scottish band Cold Year's new album. I don't know if you were aware of that band already. Their last record was quite decent, I thought. It was a bit Gaslight Anthem-esque. And he was you could hear his Scottish accent in his singing. This one, I like the opening track. I like the title track, but I'm not getting it. It sounds very sort of Green Day wannabe, and I don't understand why it's getting reviewed as well as it is. Are you aware of them? Have you heard any of this one?
No. But I've had a little bit of a flick through this afternoon. Couple of 3 or 4 songs that stuck out on that new record. That 32, I think it's called, the first song on the record. Yeah. The title track that you mentioned as well, I think is quite good. And there was another one. Yeah. There's another one on there, but it was a very kind of swift listen. I was wondering where they had come from at the point that where you sent it over. So yeah, I was quite surprised to see they were a Aberdeen based punk rock band. So
okay, so on that brief listen, were you quite keen? Will you go away and listen to it
absolutely?
Properly, yeah,
okay. I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's making a better first impression with you than it did with me, then.
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, I'll go through and go back and listen to some of their other stuff. But
Jason Tate over at Chorus FM's absolutely loving it. Like, gave like his first review in ages, and it's a really glowing review, and just talking about how much the lyrics mean to him and stuff, which fair play to him.
Well, we'll look out for them anyway, for local-ish.
Yep. We had a new song from the Wonder Years recently.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good track actually. Compared to like their releases of the last few years. Like,
Yeah,
I think it's good. I think it's a bit of a better track, to be honest with you. A bit more about it.
yeah. It's almost throwing back to the Greatest Generation sound that they had about 9 years ago or something, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, they've got. So is that part of a new album that's due at some point?
I think so. Need to check that again, but yeah, that's the impression I'm under.
I did check out that new that Lit song, which I think is part of a new album coming out. That's quite a good track.
I meant to send that to you today as well, and I forgot. And I thought, this is last minute. He's busy as it is, so I'll not add that to his list. So I'm pleased you listened to that.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I think it's a really good song. Yeah,
it's class, isn't it? That chorus, love it. I haven't heard a Lit song that good for ages.
Be interesting to see what the album.
Yeah, because they went kind of sort of country about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Which, fair enough, try something different. But I guess it didn't work for them maybe in the way they wanted. So they've kind of gone back to the classic pop rock sound. But yeah, I love this one.
They must be getting on a bit now as well. Because like they were like, when we were like teenagers, they were like not an older band, but they were like older than us. They were like...
Yeah, well, I'm just looking it up. So AJ Popoff is... Okay, so he's going to be 49 this year.
Okay. About 10
yeah, it's about 10 years older than me. Okay.
10, 15 years, yeah.
But yeah, they've just been on tour in the UK, actually, with Bowling for Soup and former guests of ours, Dolly Rots, which are playing some big venues.
Yeah, they didn't come my way, I don't think.
Did they not? Bowling for Soup actually had a new album last week as well, which I skipped through today.
I thought you were going to say you skipped past completely, but
no, I gave it a little listen. I enjoyed a couple of songs, but yeah, it was a bit throwaway for my liking.
Well, yeah, much like all of their stuff, unfortunately. Nice guys. They've done really fucking well for themselves as well. They've got a huge following over here, especially in the UK. Like touring a lot over here as well. Like you always see them coming around every year or so, don't you? And they're always playing big rooms, sellout rooms, So
exactly. And Jarrett, the singer, seems like a cool guy. I'd like to get him on here sometime. He seems fun.
Okay, well, let's make sure we don't point him towards this episode.
Yeah,
for a point of reference.
Hey, I said I liked a couple of songs on the new record. And then the other thing was, we're both big Interrupters fans, so obviously we know we've got a new record coming from them. We've got that new single out. Oh, what are you thinking?
It just didn't hit the note for me, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like compared to like their last album, which just kind of felt like a album of like anthemic songs. It just this track just didn't really land for me, and I hope it's not a sign of the album either. You sound surprised. You quite
right. Well, I just don't understand what you want. What more you want from them? It's anthemic in their classic way. I mean, it sounds bog standard in a good way for them. Yeah, I don't like if that was on that last record, it would have been one of the stronger songs. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see what the new album brings. Do you know when that's out?
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. I think it's August or something. Early August, maybe. Know this stuff going into the podcast and stuff. Yeah, 5th of August. So a little bit of time.
Cool. Well, I expect.
But yeah.
Expect good things from that.
Yeah. Still need to have one of them on the show as well. That's kind of like a guest we've been trying to have for a while.
Not long till this Social Distortion tour with the Love Breakers in Grade 2. When does that start?
That starts May 30th in Milan. Yeah, not long at all.
Shit.
Getting very excited for that now.
What insight have you got from the world of band management, organising European tours? Can you give our listeners
Well, I can definitely say it would have been simpler in pre-Brexit times. I can pretty confidently say that. Yeah, there are lots of things to watch out for anyone who is about to tour Europe or connected to anyone touring Europe. And also, big shout out to our good friend Rob in Elvana, as they have just been over to the Netherlands. So he's given me tips on things they've been through and stuff.
What was the biggest surprise of things that you just didn't know about in the industry that you had to consider as part of your band management role that you just never thought was a thing?
Well, it's the kind of things that I probably would have known if I sat down and thought about, but if you're not involved in that world, you just don't think about it at all. Just all the logistical things that you need to know about venues and things like, if you're selling your merch at a venue, does the venue take a cut? And there's all those little things like that, and it gets quite complicated. But it's all good. It's all good learning experience. It's fascinating as well.
Been learning more about border control.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah. My not concerns, but areas that I want to watch is the fact that they're doing both Switzerland and Norway on this tour, and both those countries aren't part of the EU, so those borders are going to be a bit tricky. Because outside of that, once you're in the EU, you're kind of all right because it's all effectively a borderless place.
So what are Love Breakers doing from a travel perspective? Then are they just vanning it from the UK or
vanning
public
it from
transport?
The UK. Yeah,
right. So they're driving from Birmingham to Milan.
Basically, yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. And then I'm not going to list all the dates, obviously, but I think it goes from Milan to Switzerland, then maybe it's Austria, and then and it goes. There's a few little spates in Germany. I think the first one's after that. So it's good. Some exciting venues.
Yeah, exciting time for those boys as well.
Absolutely.
All big arena type venues, right?
Yep, exactly. And it's all happening because, as you know, record number 2 is currently being made. And sounding good so far.
Cool. I guess the question is, are they doing any dates in Bulgaria?
No.
Social D not got a following in Bulgaria? Because we have.
Yeah, sorry to I don't know what 90% of our listenership. No, the tour is not coming in your country. I'm sorry.
Yes, and thank you to all the listeners in Bulgaria.
Yeah, big shout out to you. Yeah,
get in touch if you're in Bulgaria. Yeah. Right, should we get into this?
Yeah, let's do it. Belmont, been around a few years. They've really kind of grown quickly with their career on Pure Noise Records. Have a lot of respect in the scene. Just had a new record come out, and we had the pleasure of talking to Brian from the band last week. So here is our chat with him.
I'm based in Newcastle, so up in the northeast of England.
Nice.
Chris is down in London. So yeah, we're 3 parts of the world right now.
Yeah, Chicago over here.
Chicago, nice man.
Yeah.
Nice.
What time is it over by you guys?
So we just turned 6 o'clock. So what are you 5 hours behind us? Is it 1 p.m. there?
So I'm actually in Central Time, so it's noon right here, 12.
Have you guys toured over the UK much?
We've only been there one time. We were on tour with Real Friends in Grayscale in 2019, like the end of 2019. We did a bunch of the UK. Went all of the mainland of it, basically like south and north. We were up in Scotland too. I don't know. I remember it was a bunch of dates though in just UK itself.
Good tour.
Yeah, it was a great tour. It was especially
some good bands on there.
Yeah. Everyone was cool. We had a good time, and it was probably extra exciting for us, just because it was our first time as a band over in the UK and Europe. So we were like, oh my god, we're in a different, continent right now.
Any immediate kind of plans to get back over, or?
Nothing immediate, but there's something currently actually in the works for any time from spring to the fall of 2023. It just depends on when this tour lands. But it's nothing like confirmed or like set in stone right at the moment. It's just like something that's being worked on. So should be back at some point soon.
We were just saying there before you came on. I guess we're still in this period of like rebooked shows and rebooked tours from like pre-COVID, and I guess there's still like these kind of backlogs, isn't there?
Right. Yeah. It's a complete mess, to be honest, because everyone's just trying to get back out, or they had like a ton of tours planned prior to the pandemic, and now it's just like a huge catching up game. And everyone's trying to get booked.
You've just come off tour, right? With you're out with was it Youth Fountain and Super American?
Yeah, so that tour started like March 2nd, ended April 1st. But yeah, it was us, Super American, Youth Fountain, and 93 Feet of Smoke.
Okay.
Halfway through the tour, 93 had to pull out because this is like a whole other story, but like we got into a pretty gnarly van crash on the tour. We flipped our van, and
I heard, man.
Yeah, we were out for like, this was like, I guess a week and a half into the tour, and then we were out for like a week on the tour trying to figure out how to get back on, try to get a van and rent a trailer, and it was a complete mess. But it basically took like a week out of the tour. So all the other bands were out, and there was like no sources of income. So they're just out there spending money, whether it's just on food, gas, and hotels, and not doing anything. So it kind of forced everyone to a little bit of a hole. And then by the time we got back on the tour, our first day back was in Berkeley, California, and on that day, while 93 was sound checking, this venue was in like a very populated like downtown area with like a lot of people around, and it was broad daylight, and their van got broken into, and it got robbed like super hard. So those guys lost a lot of things. Like I'm pretty sure someone's on that package lost like their actual social security card and passport from that, and like it was an entire mess. And like at that point they were just like, I don't know. I don't think we can pull this one off right now. So unfortunately, they had to drop. It was just a really unlucky situation.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And presumably, a band like them, if they're going on a tour and like they're very much the opening acts, they're probably, I don't know, what their finances like, but maybe they're barely breaking even. They're doing the tour for coverage or whatever. So like when things like that happen, it's got to hit them so hard, man.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was super unfortunate. They were awesome. We were really stoked to have them out, and it just was a bummer that they had to go. But what can you do? Not much.
These things happen, man. How was so we've had Tyler from Youth Fountain on our show before, who seems like a super chill, nice guy. Was he fun to be out on the road with?
He sucked. He was awful. Tyler was.
I'd love it if you genuinely said that. That would
I gave you the inside scoop. He's like, dude, Tyler was terrible, man. He pushed me to the ground every day, and he bullied me for my lunch money. No, Tyler was awesome, man. All of the Youth Fountain guys, we love them a lot, and they were super cool. And Tyler's like such a sweet, genuine dude, and he's really awesome live too. Like super talented. Great guy. I miss all of them already.
So. New record, been out just over a month. How are you feeling about it now? Still sounding good to you, and how's the reception been to it?
Oh, I love it, man. It's been really cool. There's been a lot of positive feedback, and like a lot of what's it called? It was just kind of in a lot of people's ears, which is like the main thing I'm focused on, whether they like it or not. But just like a lot of people checking it out and like hearing it has been really cool. I'm a big fan of it. I'm really happy with what we did on there. But overall, the reaction has been super solid. Everyone's loving it. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is great." Definitely also have some people that are like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, or like, "Oh, what happened to you guys? Like, you're not the same." And then there's like just some people that like, for example, we did the Country Girl song.
Yeah, I thought you might come to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny about that song is like it's essentially a meme. It's like a joke. And when we were like first doing it in the studio, like we were just like, like this is just like whatever. This is a joke. We're messing around. And like our producer Andrew Wade,
Yeah.
he was like, "Nah, you guys should do this. Like this definitely should happen. This is gonna be great." And he also had like I'm not sure what the word is, but he was able to tap into that real well. He's like a big fan of like folk and like country stuff in general. Like, so he has like an inkling for it. And he was able to like help us out a lot with it. And like, it was hilarious what it turned out to. It's like a great song, but it's like, what is going on right now? And so when we finally released that, there was like people that are like, "Oh my god, this is awesome! I can't believe you did this." And then there's some people that are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did this!" Like, it was hilarious because like some people would like DM me on stuff, and they would be like,
Yeah.
"Listen, I'm a huge fan. I'm gonna support you always, but I need to ask you right now, why did you do this? Why did this happen?" And they're like so genuine about it. They don't want to be.
Yeah.
They're like, "Why did you guys do this?" Like, it's like a super big letdown for them.
Sorry, Nick. I know I'm hogging the questions here, but I just have to ask one question related to this. But Brian, did you see Finn McKenzie's video about that song? You know, the punk rock NBA on.
Yeah. Which obviously we weren't expecting that to happen at all, but it was super cool that that we were just able to get like a video reviewed by him. Like we were super
that was awesome
for that,
and he got it as well.
On just bringing it to like I guess like new people's ears and whatnot. But definitely a funny experience because there's so many people that are like they're so diehard about it. They're like, "This is the most amazing thing ever," and then some people that are like, "I hate this with like my entire heart." So it's a super polarizing song. Which is cool. We just want people to talk about it.
Just blame Andrew Wade, which I just want to get onto there. Was it your first time working with Andrew Wade? Obviously, he's a bit of a legend of the game.
Yeah. It was our first time, and we're huge fans.
Okay, how did he come on board? And I guess that writing process. When did it start? I mean, was it something you kind of kicked off kind of in the middle of the pandemic? Had the time to work on. I mean, how did the writing and the recording kind of come about, and how did Andrew get on board?
Right. So before all of that, we were just I think it was like a year prior to going to the studio, like so pretty much kind of like a year before the pandemic was coming through, or maybe like half a year before. But we were looking to get back into the studio to do our sophomore record, and we were just asking around, and we'd already been fans of Wade for forever, so we like already knew about him, and like we were just talking with our management. We were just like, well, why not we try Andrew Wade? Like, we would love to work with him, and like we don't know him, but we would like to try to work with him. And I think it was just we emailed him like and started a conversation, and then he was just down to do the record. And our label and all of us were down, so it was pretty easy to just lock on like that, just simply reaching out via email. And what's it called? So we had that booked and like ready to go. We were supposed to go into the studio with him. As far as the writing prior to it goes, it was kind of, the whole writing process in general was like all over the map because let's see, like by the time that we knew we were going to start going in the studio, like I know I personally started writing and demoing out like a bunch of new stuff to go in for the record. like instrumental stuff. And I started preparing for that. I know like me and like our guitarist Jason started doing a bunch of like just demos on our own.
Mm-hmm.
So we start writing for that, but at the same time, by the time we got to the studio, you know, like we had like there's fresh writing being done and material being brought, and like, you know, before we went into the studio, Jason and I just, you know, put down like all the pre-pro as from whatever we had at the time, and just kind of had everything ready to go. But when we were in the studio, we were like sifting through this new material that we had, and then we were also like me and Jason had a bunch of demos from like prior to starting to write for this. Like we had demos from like 2 or 3 years ago that were just like kind of sitting in a bank vault.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so like that was like stuff that was being written like right after the first album and like during the time we did our Reflections EP. So like there's all this like mix mash of like material that was fresh, and then stuff that was like older that we never used, but like we just listened through everything with Andrew, and we were like, okay, these songs that I'm hearing right now, like we're interested in, let's work on these 12.
Okay.
And so it was like kind of, so the writing was just all over the place. Like it was like, I guess technically a span of 3 years, but it wasn't intended to be, but that's how it kind of turned out. And once we brought everything into the studio, then we were there in the studio for like a month and a half, and we were taking these songs, and then we were also writing a bunch on top of them. Because like some tracks were, and also this was all instrumentals at this point when we were first starting. Taz had some lyrics here and there, but it was pretty much instrumentals from there. And some instrumental tracks were like completed, and then some were like parts, like a chorus and like a verse of a song, or like, you know, something like that. So we wrote a bunch on top of that while we were in there, and then we would take like already pretty well written songs and like rework them, and then write a bunch on top of them. And at the same time, like Taz was like locking himself in like a closet in the studio, and like just like writing on all these demos while we were like working on them with Wade. So like a bunch of stuff was written prior, but then a bunch of stuff was also written while we were in there, because we were just reworking stuff. We were like kind of testing out every possibility.
Some of the electronic sound that kind of comes through your songs, like, is that something that kind of comes later, or is that very much part of the you know, composition and the kind of instrumental side of things?
It's definitely kind of at the same time. It could be after too. It depends, or it could actually start with that at the same time. But usually how it is, like for me personally, like when demoing stuff out, like I'll have like those electronics already going and like the demos with like just writing the tracks. But also, like I said, it can happen prior to it. It could like inspire, let's say, like a guitar line. And basically, I don't know, it can happen anywhere, but usually it's like seamless. Usually it's like a seamless process with everything else.
And have you, is that developed over time, or is that something that you've kind of always tried to kind of deliver as a band from the start, you know, or did you start out as just, you know, your guitars and, you know, and I guess, when did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so we started with like more like, you know, guitar, bass, drum, you know, music standard basically. And I know I always had in the back of my head that I wanted to incorporate like as much as we could into like the sound, and I really wanted to, like, because I was big into hip hop, and I wanted to like, you know, incorporate these electronic EDMs, like EDM as well, and like a bunch of just random stuff, and just more. It's more room for experimentation and textures. Like there's just more possibilities with it. But it was basically like around the Reflections time, right before Reflections. But like that's when, for example, like I think one of the first songs that was really done like that, or at least demoed out like that, was By My Side, and like I was demoing out that song, and I was like, I want to do it. I'm gonna put it in here. I'm gonna do it. And like I had been like producing before, and like the other guys had like like electronic producing skills as well, mostly on like hip hop stuff. But anyway, sorry, where was I trying to go with that? By My Side is where like we really did it, and like I like put it in there, and I was like, this is it, it's gonna be like this. And then from there it was like kind of like a whirlwind. Started adding like everything on top of it with like other songs, started incorporating a bunch of stuff within that EP in that regard, but also just trying to balance it out too, so it's not like too heavy leaning on it, like so it's just like a nice mix of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say around right before Reflections is when it's like really started to like kick in, because like even instrumentally before that, like on the record, it might be kind of hard to hear it, but like that influence was already there in that writing, but it was more trying to like put it into like how the guitars and drums flow and like how like vocals are working with everything. And so it was like the influence was already there, but like taking that step to really get into like the electronic world was definitely like Reflections time, and then that came up all the way until now.
Cool. I mean, I guess kind of what we usually do is do a little bit of a chronological walkthrough of the band and what have you. So I guess thinking about influences, he talks about the hip hop and EDM kind of influences that have developed your sound. But I mean, go back to like when you I guess even when you were just starting to pick up instruments and getting into pop punk and punk rock. I mean, what kind of bands were you listening to back then?
Well, for me personally, when I was first starting out, I was getting into it when I was super young. Like I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was already getting like exposed to a bunch of music through my brother and just like hearing stuff. My dad's a musician too, so like it was just like a musical household. There was just a lot of different stuff going on, a lot of different, like I don't know, jazz and fusion and stuff like that going around. But what really got me into everything was just like really heavy ass music. Heavy, like music in general is my top love. That's like my favorite stuff.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah, metal and like stupid heavy stuff. So back when I was really getting into it when I was super young, it started with like Metallica, but then Slipknot is really what got me like going, because prior to that I had only played I started playing violin and guitar, but Slipknot is what made me want to start playing drums. I was like, oh my god, I want to do that. And like at the time, first 2 Slipknot records are like pretty insane, and like I was just super into it, like all the energy and just the madness and like just the adrenaline. I loved all of that. So from there, I was really into a bunch of like new metal bands. Like that was my first love. Like that's where I came from. But like it just delved into like heavier and heavier music. It kind of became like building a drug tolerance, because like you need to do more and more to get that high you're looking for. I guess it's a pretty interesting way to put it, but like I just wanted things to get heavier and heavier, so it got into like death metal bands and like different extreme metal bands, and I was going further and further into that hole. But at the same time, when I was younger, like a lot of pop punk was like in my ears too. Like my brother had Blink-182 a lot on the background, like Green Day. Was super big into Nirvana and like all those like alternative acts. Like I remember Incubus was actually another huge one, but like all those acts were like in the background, and I loved all that too. But like at the time, I was like metal, and that was going on for most of my childhood. And it wasn't really until I don't know, I was around like 12 years old is when I started like kind of broadening the horizons as well. I was also super into hip hop back then, so that was forming at the same time. Like I said, a lot of it came from like my brother's music. He had like stacks of burned CDs at the house that I would just like go take them, and I figured out how to like put them in the desktop computer and like listen to them and whatnot. And but basically when I was like 12, I like went into more broader sense of music and like started listening to more like pop punk stuff, more like post, like alternative music, stuff like that, and kind of all around. And also that's when I was starting to get into EDM and like a lot of hip hop at that time I was really getting into. So, and like kind of went into more progressive metals when I started. I liked getting into instrumental music and more kind of tech and proggy stuff. And then like getting into jazz and like fusion. So as I'm getting older at this point, then I'm kind of becoming like, I like all of this stuff. And like, you know, I wasn't so like, oh, I need heavy music. I just want the heavy music. So yeah, that it kind of went into like a bunch of different stuff. I was a little bit all over the map growing up, but so starting off, it was definitely metal for sure before anything.
I feel like you should do. I think you haven't done a record with Zach Savini, have you? I don't think.
No.
You should work with him if you can, because you know I know he's everywhere at the minute. But like his favorite band's Slipknot, and he loves his heavy stuff.
Yeah. Zach Savini's great. Yeah, 100% a fan of his work. And actually, I didn't know about the Slipknot thing, so maybe it'll be a perfect match.
There you are. Yeah, exactly.
So I guess fast forward then to kind of, because Belmont started as like a high school band, right? You guys
we were in high school.
Did it start as a death metal high school band, or did you?
No, it was straight up pop punk. It was pop punk to the bone. But how it happened was our old bassist, who went to my high school, he got in. I feel like it was literally through Craigslist or like some like Facebook musicians group at the time. But he found Taz, and him and Taz got together, and they like started formulating Belmont, right? And they're like trying to get a band together. And then our old bassist knew me, and like I had done some stuff with him prior to that, but it's at the time, you know, it was no offense to him. He's one of my best friends, but like I never wanted to be in any of his bands because they were all pretty like terrible. But he had asked me about this, what he had going on with Taz, and he was like, "You should jam with us. Like we're trying to look for a drummer and blah blah blah." And I was like, I really didn't want to do it, but something in me was just like, you know what, whatever, let's just do it. And I got together with them, and it was like one of our old guitarists at that point too. And I'd met Taz and the rest of the guys, and we started jamming. And they were doing straight up pop punk, and I was like, right away in the beginning, I was like, you know, it's not really what I'm trying to do right now, but like, you know, if you'll let me, I'm gonna just do my own thing a little bit here. And like I started like putting just crazy drums in it because I was like, I was just gonna make this interesting for myself. It was a little selfish, I guess. Maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, like so it was definitely that Belmont influence that you know about, like was already kind of coming into place, but it was super pop punk at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it was like kind of, we became like good friends first, you know, which I think was really important. I got along really well with all the guys, and like before, like, you know, we were playing and jamming, but like before any of that, like we liked hanging out, and it was fun to hang out. We would go and
that's important
do stuff together. So we just became like good friends first, and like formed like a good bond before, you know, really getting into anything. And then basically once we started, like a year into it, we started getting like a lot more serious about it. And then you know, I came into the map with writing music for the band too, along with Taz. So like really was trying to go for like this technical pop punk metal influenced pop punk style. I know, which a lot of people would say is easycore, but I felt like it was a little different. And it was like from there, the rest is history. It's just like this constant evolution that keeps going. But like, it was like, okay, this is serious. I'm going to like put my heart into this. And like everyone was on the same page as well. And so
nice,
you know, from there, it's just like the natural evolution of what happened.
I'm just conscious of the time. I know we're nearly out of time. So I think before we wrap this up, if that's cool with you, Brian, like just ask you just a quick question about like what's next for Belmont. Like I mean, can you give us any insight into where you might go sound wise next, and then just briefly what you've got coming up for the rest of the year besides Furnace Fest? I saw that you guys are doing that.
Right. So we have So What Festival coming up, a couple other shows that are in the works, a couple tours that I can't talk about.
Okay, fair enough.
And what else is there? Oh yeah, then we have Furnace Fest, and there should be actually another fest or two that's we're not announced on yet that we should be on. And then right after a tour in the fall that we're gonna do, we're gonna head it to the studio for the next record
cool.
around like October time. And as far as then there's some tours in the works also for when we're like out of the studio. So basically tours are coming, and then we're going in the studio in October time. And as far as the sound goes, I don't like to, it's a little corny, but I don't like to like pinpoint it or like put it in a box. It's kind of like, you know, whatever we're feeling at the moment. And because we've always been a band that's just like do whatever we want to do and put in everything that we want, and like kind of it's for us.
Yeah.
So whatever we start writing and just how it evolves and what we're trying to do at that moment of time is probably how it's going to be on the record. So you can expect probably a bunch of different weird stuff going on, a lot of implementing different genre bending type of things.
Nice.
But at the end of the day, it'll be the Belmont that you know and love. You know, we won't ever completely go into outer space. But we'll be, you know, circling the atmosphere and throwing in a bunch of crazy shit. That's how we always do.
And yeah, I guess just lastly, I mean, your time with Pure Noise as well. I mean, you've been with them for a little while now. I assume that's going well, and looking to continue with those guys going forwards.
Yeah, 100%. Pure Noise is awesome. Great people. Help us out with like whatever we need. And they get what we're doing, and a lot of it they just let us do our thing. They're like, Belmont, do the thing that you do, and then we'll just be here helping you out. So it's really cool. Nice. They're awesome, and they've been really good to us. So we're stoked on that. Stoked to be working together.
Yeah, they've been on fire the last few years, so it's a good home for you, I'm sure.
Indeed.
Yep. Brian, thanks so much for giving us your time, man. Like,
oh, no worries.
Much appreciated.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate that.
Hope to see you get some shows in the UK soon, and we'll see you over here.
Like I said, look for that in 2023, because that's
nice one.
Possibly happening.
No worries. We'll check back around with you then.
Cool. Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
you guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers, man.
All right, enjoy your afternoon. All right, bye.
You guys too. Bye.
Can't wait for you to arrive, and I can't